Hello, my name is Rupert Goold. I'm the Artistic Director here at the Almeida Theatre, and welcome back to this evening of live theatre. It may not feel like live theatre as we all know and remember, but it is live and we are in a theatre. And we are very thrilled to have you here with us, sharing this evening that we've been able to offer up during lockdown. I know you're a lockdown audience, but you're still an audience nonetheless, and we're thrilled you can be part of this community at the Almeida. We've also got our creatives and actors here. We have the wonderful Danny Sapani, Adrian Lester, our writer Lolita Chakrabarti, and our wonderful director Blanche McIntyre. So we're just going to have a little chat about the production and the show and the work you've all done. Lolita, can we begin with you maybe? Where did this play come from?
It came from me looking at people in my life, looking at men in my life. So family, I'm married to Adrian, which is why we can sit next to each other. I can do that. And it was from the men in my extended family. So my brother-in-law, Adrian's cousins, uncles, and also my male friends. And I was looking at them and how they relate to each other and thought, gosh, there is a whole story in male relationships that I've never seen on stage. A sort of a subtlety and an insecurity, vulnerability, a geekiness, a joy and affection. I thought I haven't seen that on stage, so I wanted to tell the story of a love story between two men that was neither a physical love nor a romantic love, but like this of two brothers.
Great. And how did it feel, you know, as a woman writing that? I guess that's sort of Jane Austen territory, isn't it? I mean, Did you feel, how did you feel confident about being able to do that? Was it just observing? Because you trained as an actor originally, didn't you?
Yeah.
So was it an actor's observation, do you think that?
It's always an actor's observation for me, with my writing, always. I guess it's the benefit of being the outsider. So I can be the outsider and observe, but then also I've got first-hand information at home. So I don't know. Maybe it's foolish. I jump in and think, yes, I want to tell this story. This excites me. It's different. I've not seen it, and I would like to see this.
And when you talk about the love, do you see that as sibling love or friendship, or some blurring between the two?
Both. I think both. The relationships I've seen are so sort of wide-reaching and complex, and there are different versions of love, right? But I think love of family is friendship as well at its best.
True. And so were you writing for these wonderful actors in mind?
Yeah, completely. I worked with Danny a couple of years ago. I mean, I've known him for years, but we worked together. Danny was in a production of mine called Invisible Cities, an adaptation of a Calvino novel, and he played Kubla Khan, slightly different to this. But when we did that, I thought, I had an inkling, a feeling of another story, and I didn't know what it was. And then as it sort of percolated in my head, I thought, to see these two on stage together would be really exciting. And I've never written for particular actors. Yeah. So that was really nice. I like the challenge of that. Yes.
And did you know Adrian beforehand, Danny?
Yeah, we've known each other for years. I've followed his career. I think the first time I ever saw him on stage was in As You Like It with the Cheek by Jow, and then I worked with them shortly afterwards. So I've always been a huge fan of his work. I've followed his career, and I feel in many ways I've been mentored by him in with his talent and his skill, and so it was a huge privilege to share a stage with him, and you know we've met each other since then and been to see each other's shows, and you know although we've never really, we have some friends in common, but it really was, this production was the sort of deepening of that relationship.
Yeah. And for you, Adrian, was that the same? I mean, it must be interesting being, I always think, actors of the same generation who sort of circle around each other through their careers. Was it, were you sort of building up to working with Danny, do you think, in this way?
Yeah, there was, I mean, I remember leaving drama school and I kind of got introduced to this fraternity of actors who were all, you know, the same culture, same age, and we were all seeing each other's shows, and there's, you know, loads of us, and I remember seeing Danny for the first time on stage and just being blown away by the power. I mean, there's there's just power. And when Lolita said, you know, he's going to be Kubla Khan, I thought, there's nobody better. And Danny was surrounded by how many dancers? 40 dancers?
No, 22.
20,
like
40, 22 dancers and this huge set and huge video projections. And there's this one powerful voice and powerful force that had to hold all of that together, and that was him. And he did it brilliantly. So getting to work on... I'm glad there's no furniture, in a way, because there's not much to hold on to. I had to stand toe-to-toe with Danny. You have to hold on to something. And there's nothing here, so I was like, okay, I've got to do it. But it's been a joy. And as Lolita was writing it, every now and then she'd like drop Danny a text or ask me, can you do this? And we both had to go, yeah, we can do that. And she'd go, okay. She'd put it in the play.
Well, that was the thing. In Invisible Cities, we had these dancers, Rambert, contemporary dance. And I remember Danny saying, oh, I hope I get to move. Yeah. And I was like, oh, are you a dancer? He said, yeah, when I was younger, I used to hang out with Rambert dancers. I was like,
Yeah, well, they're great. So Blanche, let me come to you. I mean, obviously we know we conceived the show for a live audience, and the set we're on was designed for a live audience. And I guess back in the autumn when we programmed it and feeling pre the variant that we were all going to be opening up at this point and enjoying a live audience. And then you've had to pivot suddenly, not even knowing whether it was going to happen through the Christmas period, I guess. And then all our actors and Lolita taking a great leap along with you about giving it a go this way. What's that been like as a process, as a director?
It's been completely terrifying. It's been absolutely frightening because we never knew from day to day. We've been tested twice a week, every time. We all have to come in. And there was a point where if we'd had to self-isolate for 10 days, I knew that the play couldn't go on because that would have been our rehearsal time done. So twice a week, we would all of us be coming in with a kind of sort of terrified feeling in the stomach going, can we make it? Is it going to happen? But I guess that's just the experience of living with COVID or living in a pandemic. You don't know what will happen from week to week, and so you have to proceed on a basis of hope, make it in the understanding that fate may intervene, but you still have to go ahead and make it. It's been extraordinary trying to go from a live idea of a play to a live streamed idea of a play. And I think I've been incredibly lucky that Lolita's play lends itself so brilliantly to that. Because when I first read it, I was really struck by the delicacy of the texture of the writing with the huge surges of emotion underneath it and the swiftness that it moves with. And so those were my three challenges. But those are challenges that translate quite well, I think, to streaming live, because you can get up so intimate with the actors and you can switch from face to face, from picture to picture. And so the sleight of hand that would be quite hard to do in a live environment actually has been much easier because we've been working with camera and we can play a couple of magic tricks to keep the play moving, which I think is one of the most important things.
Yeah. I mean, the actors have been so brave. I mean, most plays, particularly new plays, have a preview period with a live audience where you're learning about the play, and of course tonight it's only our second performance at all, and we've never had a live audience, so they've done fantastically. But I'm struck also that Lolita, you and Adrian both were struck down over Christmas, weren't you? And I guess it would have been that new variant, so we had that uneasy moment about whether, you know, how you were going to be. I think even the first week of rehearsals, you couldn't come in, could you? I think.
No, exactly.
So I'm sort of interested, like, how has it been? Has there been a feeling of joy in the rehearsal room, having been through all those privations, particularly for you, Adrian? I mean,
there has been a bit of joy. When we came back into the rehearsal room, I tested negative, and I did. There was a period I warned the Almeida that I might test positive because I just, I was a week out of my period. But because of the antibodies and the certain tests, I thought I might just test positive. And I said, you've got to be prepared. I've just had it and I'm fine, but it might happen. And I tested negative with this particular test. So that was great. The one thing that Blanche has had to deal with as well that, she didn't quite mention is that we thought we would be able to rehearse it and touch and hand each other props and have coats and all of that. And as we were doing it, Emma, who's probably up there, our brilliant DSM, was, she had a 2-meter tape measure and was saying, you can't touch that. And if Danny's picked that up, Adrian, you can't touch that. You can't sit there. Danny moved that chair last, so you can't. And we were going through the rehearsal process, trying to put this play together about this affection, this passion, the dance routines, the songs, the amount of props we have, all making sure that we were only in passing a meter close, or that we didn't touch the same thing that somebody else touched. If we were static in a scene, we're 2 meters apart. It's been a headache for Blanche. But the challenge has been as well that all of our colleagues up and down the country are struggling to make work and have closed their buildings. And so given the opportunity to say, well, can you do it? There was a kind of push behind all of us that was saying, we've got to make this work. Let's try. We've got to make it work. Because we've got to show that I suppose, in a way that it can be done, if you're lucky.
Yeah, and keep making stuff. How have you found it, Danny, as well? Because
yeah, I mean, it's been tough not being able to touch each other, you know. It's particularly in a play like this that lends itself to at least a high five, do you know? You know, something, you know. But we have to sort of express all of that feeling through with distance, and I think we've achieved that quite well. I mean, I'm not even conscious of it now. It's just part of the piece, and I love the fact that we arrive with masks and we end with masks. You know, it's respectful of the times that we're in, whilst also you know, trying to tell the story as best we can, and I think that's.
Do you feel yourself like missing a live audience in the sense of, you know, I remember at the end of the evening, of course, you've been on this great journey, and you both were alone in the room, in an empty room, and of course last night we could feel the kind of responses coming in.
It has its advantages and disadvantages. I think the disadvantage obviously is, you know, previews. You learn so much from how an audience respond to things. You know, what you might lose and what you might string out, or you know, play a bit stronger or not. But we don't have that. Most of the people who have seen the show have been people who work in the building, so you know, you can't really trust their opinions, because they're involved in the show. They're part of it. They've got a vested interest. But you know, it's very different when you get you know, like people who have no experience or no understanding of what's going on. They're just given this piece and they respond to it in a really visceral way. We've had to wait until we go home and, you know, and Twitter or whatever means you have to kind of get that feedback. But the advantage is that in this space, it's just us and the cameras, and there's a level of focus that I just don't think you would get in any other environment, really, to really sort of connect with each other, and I think that has sort of given us headspace that we probably wouldn't have had before to really explore the emotional depth and reach of this wonderful play.
And what about nerves? Because I was struck that, like, you're playing it straight through. It's effectively a screen piece, but you know, it is live. Has that pressure been sort of unique, Adrian? I mean,
it hits me the first time I have to hit the chord of the piano, because if I hit the wrong one, and that moment, as soon as it starts playing, I just think, now you're off. And standing here and and just speaking to no one.
Yeah.
And there are all these words stacked up in your head, and there's no reaction. If there was an audience here, I'd feel so much better, because at least I can pretend it's a church, I can pretend it's a street, I can pretend it's a gym, I can pretend all of these things. The quality of silence changes with them. You learn to move this or do that or bring this up or bring this down with an audience, and you know, in previews, as you said, you trim things, but without them, you just get it ready and throw it out into the void and hope. So it's been nerve-wracking.
And Blanche, do you feel you've learned lots about camera?
Oh God! I started off a complete novice. It's been a week of the steepest learning curve I think I've ever been on. But I've been also astonished, because we cut live down in the bowels of the building, watching Matt, who is our director of camera, talking to 4 people at once, spinning, watching all the scenes going here, 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 here. And how quickly he thinks and how brilliant his instinct is has been a tremendous lesson in itself.
Good. And what do you hope the play leaves with people, Lolita? What would you like people to take away from it, do you think?
I hope they get a really good story that makes them laugh, cry, and just feel, actually. I want them to meet these two men and see an intimacy, affection, love, and a happening. And just know you don't know who people are. When you meet them, there's so much in front and behind them, and who they are. You make snap judgments about people, and we just don't know, do we? So hopefully it's an introduction to two strangers, and they could be anybody.
Yeah. I think that feels very timely, doesn't it? The thing that I feel watching it every time is just the warmth that comes off in their relationship and between you two actors, but also in the play that you've written and the production you've made. And I think that that's satisfying something for people at the moment, isn't it? To see people having fun on the stage, and it's great to know that can still happen. Anyway, I want to thank you all so much for making it. I know it's been a tough journey, but
Thank you for
thank you.
Absolutely.
We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you.
Absolutely.
thank you all for coming as well.
doing it.
Hopefully we'll be able to have our live audience back here soon at the Almeida, but in the event we can't, we will keep doing productions like this. And thank you so much for your ongoing support, and we look forward to seeing you all again soon.